Thank you for joining me this afternoon. I am Scott Close. I'm the Director of Investor Relations for EMX Royalty Corp, formerly known as Eurasian Minerals. I've been with the company for 11 years now. Wait for my presentation to appear here.
I finished early, so they probably...
Oh, okay, so I'll just...
weren't quite ready for it.
Okay. Hey, here we go. All right. It's our forward-looking statement. I'll give you 30 seconds to commit that to memory. There'll be a test on that in the morning. All right, to understand EMX Royalty, first of all, you have to understand the business model. We take a three-pronged approach to our business. The first portion of the business model is the organic generation of royalties via prospect generation. So we utilize the prospect generation business model that when we vend out a property to a partner, then we hold back a royalty. And of course, once we sell that project to a partner, we stop writing checks at that point. And so all of the onus, including the physical onus, is on the partner to advance that property. And if that property does advance to production, we're going to capture the cash flow from that royalty. And the second part of the royalty business model is the acquisition of royalties when we can find those at favorable pricing evaluations, but that's becoming increasingly more difficult to do. And we simply use that as a supplement to our organically derived royalty portfolio. So primarily our portfolio is organically derived, and then from time to time we can find these deep value assets to purchase. And then the last leg of our three-pronged approach is strategic investment, and we'll see a great example of that here in just a few slides. All right, moving on. This shows where we are active around the globe. Our primary areas of focus around the world are Scandinavia, primarily Sweden and Norway, where we have a number of partners there advancing our assets. And those are copper, gold, base metal, and cobalt assets. I think we have partnerships there with 4 companies so far. We also have a number of other properties there that are available for partnership. We've been picking up a lot of ground in both of those countries because those are both very favorable jurisdictions, both geologically and from a political jurisdiction standpoint. We're also very active in Arizona in the southwestern United States. That is elephant country for big copper, and that's really our wheelhouse along with gold. And we're also very active in Nevada. We're also active in Turkey. Basically all of our projects there are in partners' hands in Turkish companies. We have one producing mine there called Balya that's kicking out about 15,000 Canadian a month now. Not a lot, but that has the potential to being ramped up substantially. They have 3 drill rigs on that property right now expanding the resource. Then we have 2 properties, Akarja and Sasorta, that are being advanced by our partners into production, and those will be nice little ATMs for us in the next few years. And then Serbia, we have a very handsome royalty on the Timok project that Nevsun has, and we'll take a look at that in a later slide. This is just a chart showing us how the portfolio is sort of broken up. You can see geographically what I've discussed previously. Commodity-wise, about a third of our properties are copper-oriented properties. That doesn't mean they're exclusively copper. They could also have a gold or molybdenum or silver component, but they're primarily copper. And then about a third of them are gold, and then the balance being polymetallic assets. Asset class, about half of our portfolio is available for partnership. We've been really loading up the pipeline because we've had a lot of appetites from the big companies looking for assets to produce, because during the downturns, they really cut back on their exploration departments. So companies like EMX Royalty largely become their proxy exploration departments, and we're here to help them out with that. You can tell a lot about a company by who their partners are, and we have some of the who's who of the mining industry there, including Newmont, Rio Tinto, Anglo American, Coeur, South 32, Freeport-McMoRan, and so on. So you can see we have a lot of partners globally. We have about 90 properties around the globe, by the way. Let's take a look at our share structure and our share ownership. We have about 80 million shares outstanding, about 90 million fully diluted. We've never done a rollback, and we have been publicly traded for 15 years now. Our top shareholders are Stevens Investment Management out of San Francisco. That's run by Paul Stevens, who is a hyper-successful fund manager. He ran a very successful mutual fund group called Robertson Stevens back in the 60s and 70s, consequently sold out of that and now largely runs family money. Sprott Global, which is Rick Rule and his clientele, own a good piece of us. EMX management directors and employees own about 8.5%. Newmont owns about 6% of us. A hedge fund out of Zurich called Carlin Partners owns about 5% of us. Adrian Day Asset Management out of Annapolis, Maryland, and his clients own about 2.5% of us. Mason Hill Asset Management, which is the umbrella company which owns Equinox Capital Partners out of New York, owns about 2%. And then Antofagasta owns about 2% of us. Rick Roll tells us he could pick up the phone in about 5 minutes, talk to about 60% of our shareholders. So we have a very loyal and devoted shareholder base, and they hold the shares very tightly. Moving on, this is the question I get the most. This is about our pending Malmyzh transaction. So Malmyzh is a significant district-scale porphyry copper-gold asset in Far East Russia. We recognize that Malmyzh was a significant discovery back in 2011. That property was being advanced by IGC, or Energeo Copper, which is a privately held company with no underlying Russian ownership. They were developing that in conjunction with Freeport-McMoRan. Freeport-McMoRan was the minority holder in the joint venture. Through a series of private placements, we were able to obtain about 40% of IG Copper shares. In June, on the 16th, actually, we announced that we are selling the project to Russian Copper Company. We expect that deal to close here within 2 weeks or so. And that will drop about 88 million Canadian dollars net of all fees and expenses into our treasury, which is more money than we have raised cumulatively through the history of the company into our treasury. Moving on to Turkey. The Balya project, which is way over there in Western Anatolia, is a lead zinc silver property that we have that is in production right now, and we expect that's going to be expanded in the future. We think that's going to end up being a really nice, juicy ATM for us. Also, just to the east of there is Akarja. That's an original EMX gold-silver discovery, and that's being advanced right now to production. That'll probably be a couple of years till that's in production. And then Sasorta there, just on the south side of the Black Sea. That's a relatively small deposit of about 300,000 ounces of gold. That's being advanced to production right now. All of those properties are in the hands of Turkish companies. So even though Turkey has suffered some political tumult of late, it's not much of a problem for Turkish companies to operate there, and Turkey's been an excellent jurisdiction for us, and we've been involved in Turkey for 15 years now. All right, moving on to the Carlin Trend. Our biggest single royalty asset at this time is on the Carlin Trend. That's the Leeville royalty. And that royalty encompasses a portion of Newmont's Leeville and Turf mines, along with a little bit of some of the other mines in the area. That's cash flowing us about $1.7 million US per year. Of course, that's a little bit volatile depending on the gold price. When the gold price goes up, they're able to take some of the more of the low-grade ore, so we get more ounces and more dollars per ounce. So with a little help for the gold price, that share payment would certainly go up. They've also been making a number of discoveries that are firmly on our footprint there, so we expect this thing to be paying for us long into the future. Not everybody realizes this, but we do have a royalty on Nevsun's big discovery there. We have a 0.5% NSR on the big discovery there. You can see that. Let's see if I've got my, geez. Oh, here we go. So we have a 0.5% on this property here. Here's the big discovery. It looks like Nevsun has another discovery going on over here. They also have 3 drill rigs over here. And this property, we have a 2% royalty on the precious metals, 1% on all the other metals. We think when this thing gets ramped up into full production, this thing's going to turn into a giant ATM for us, and that thing's going to be paying out for decades. That about wraps it up. Thank you so much for your time, and don't forget to come to Gwen's house for the party.